What's cracking, ladies and gentlemen? FortyeniN coming at you with another community shoutcast for the UGC Dota League Season 2. We're loading into game number 1 of the Best of 2 series between FortyeniN and Yeah Nah Mate. This is for the Eastern Invite, so it's predominantly made up of a Singaporean, Australian, as well as a few teams over in Southeast Asia. And so both teams are from New Zealand. FortyeniN and Yeah Nah Mate actually have competed against each other in the past in the aspect of gaming Dota 2 community crackdown. Although back then, Yeah Nah Mate ran by 5IP, and so they have actually switched out their roster a little bit, with the newest additions to their team being King Killer, as well as Cox. And so the real brother, the captain for Yeah Nah Mate, they have requested first pick, and so it will be interesting to see what hero they decide to let slip through the first banning stage. And Brodo actually started to ban out with Viper as the first ban. Viper is a hero that's been significantly altered in A2 with the fact that Mech now costs 75 more mana, as well as the fact that Corrosive Skin will no longer work for global abilities, so it has a range cap of 1400, and multiple instances of Corrosive Skin will no longer bounce off each other. So for instance, if a Shadow Demon was to disrupt a Viper, what used to happen before A2 was the illusions that came out of the disruption would hit the Viper and proc Corrosive Skin will then proc as a result of the illusion taking damage onto Viper, and it proc indefinitely until the illusions died. And so it was a great way to counter Viper, so now that no longer works. It's considered a slight buff, but the fact that you could, it also, the mana cost for Mech has been increased, as well as the fact that it no longer procs on global abilities like the Ancient Apparition Ice Blast. All the Wrath of Nature coming out from Nature's Prophet has fairly weakened the effectiveness of Viper, especially since mana is such a huge concern for Viper, so if he decides to go for a naked mech rush, he'll just barely have enough mana to mech, use his ultimate, and throw out 2 or 3 orbs before he starts to run completely dry, so it impacts his ability to be able to continually push, which is what Viper is famously renowned for. FortyeniN have opted to ban out the Tidehunter and the Razor, so both of these heroes used to be considered incredibly powerful in 8-1, still are to an extent. Razor is an incredibly powerful hero that has a huge amount of versatility in the sense that you can run him into any lane, as long as you run him as a core position hero. And Tidehunter, he's considered one of the best offlane heroes in the game, just because how versatile he is and how difficult it is to really shut him down. The issue with Razor is he has been nerfed quite heavily in the last 2 patches, so in 8.2 as well as in 8.2b and c, I believe they nerfed him again. And so his Static Link now costs 50 mana at all levels, with his Plasma Field now dealing half damage for its minimum, so it actually heavily impacts his ability to control the lane, since his mana is a much bigger concern for him, as well as the fact that Mech, which is a conventional item that you pick up as early as possible, and the Razor has an increased mana cost, so Razor actually can't afford to go for Mech if he wants to use all his abilities in a team fight. And so we've got a Death Prophet as well as a Faceless Void pickup coming out from FortyeniN. Both these heroes have been quite heavily nerfed. The most significant nerf for the Faceless Void is the fact that Chronosphere, it no longer disables passive abilities, so things such as the PA Blow will now trigger. So PA is actually a great pick to use against a Void now, is if you're just relying on Void's physical DPS, no longer going to be as effective just because you've got the 50% evasion to deal with. Of course, you do have the Death Prophet, Exorcism Spirits. I believe Exorcism Ghosts actually ignore evasion, as well as the Vanguard damage block. But Death Prophet, the Exorcism cooldown, has increased quite significantly. I believe it's gone up by 20 seconds at all levels with the change in A2C as well. Whereas Yeah Nah Mate, they've opted to go with the Skywrath Mage and Omni Knight. Omni Knight's a hero Yeah Nah Mate really do like to run in an aggressive dual lane, because it gives them the ability to throw a very durable dual lane against that tri-lane, and it's difficult to engage on the Omni Knight, since if you draft somebody like Undying, they can then turn with the Tombstone, or if you jump on the other hero, then the Omni Knight can immediately heal them with Purification, then provide the Repel to prevent them from being engaged. So Omni Knight gives you a lot of flexibility if you decide to run aggressive dual lanes, but in a tri-lane situation, he's very ineffective, just because he has no real way to zone the enemy offlaner, or if it's try-v-try, he doesn't really offer enough to be effective, just because he's a very greedy hero to run in that 4-position role. You ideally want to run him as a core, but of course the drawback of that is Omni Knight isn't necessarily the greatest hero that you want as a core if you don't have a much more reliable late game hero to go with him. So Omni Knight's a hero you pick up to synergize with another powerful late game core, just because he provides you, first of all, the 4,000 gold save by the fact that you don't have to buy the BKB on your core hero, thanks to Repel, as well as the fact that the later the game goes, the more powerful he becomes, especially with the Guardian Angel. Although Guardian Angel actually has been slightly nerfed, it no longer provides the HP regen. When you trigger it, in Dota 1 it used to provide 25 HP regen per second, and the reason for that is you couldn't actually provide complete physical immunity with the Warcraft 3 engine, and so you needed the so at most all it could do is provide you 99.9% damage reduction by giving you 9,000 armor, and so the only way you could compensate for the fact that you might take some damage is by adding in the HP regen. So Yeah Nah Mate, they've opted to ban out the Witch Doctor, so Witch Doctor's a great hero to ban out against the Void, just because you've got the synergy with the Chronosphere into the Death Ward. And so this is the drafting advantage of the Faceless Void, as it forces the enemy drafter to have to ban out heroes that work exceptionally well with the Void, such as the Lich or the Witch Doctor, since Yana Mate have already picked up the Skywrath Mage. And so FortyeniN, they're opting to ban out the Centaur Warrunner, and Warrunner is an incredibly powerful offlane hero that actually does very well against the Void in a 1v1 matchup. And Centaur Warrunner, he can bully them quite handily out of lane. So if he ever gets in range for the Hoof Stomp, he can follow up with the Double Edge and use that, assuming he doesn't get a backtrack proc, to really bully Void out of lane, especially once he gets the Tranquil Boots. You can afford to just walk up to him, double edge him, and back away and wait for the passive HP regen to provide you the sustainability to win that lane. So FortyeniN now starting to dip into a bit of their reserve time for their 4th ban. So far, Mate, their draft hasn't really given away all too much. If you wanted to read into Mate's prior games, you might think that the Omni Knight pickup is an indication they want to go for dual lanes. But the Skywrath Mage, very flexible support hero. It provides you a lot of options in how you want to run your lanes. Of course, FortyeniN actually have played against Mate in their prior iteration of 5 IPs. They might be a bit aware. They've opted to ban out the Wraith King, and Wraith King is a hero that works very well with the Omni Knight, both in lane as well as in regards to these team fights, just because Omni Knight is able to ensure that Wraith King is difficult to bring him down, and Wraith King, he's a hero that eventually if you run in the core position, he'll reach critical mass where he's so tanky he can absorb all the focus fire you throw at him, but he deals so much damage you have to kill him, otherwise he'll just run over the rest of your team. So having the Omni Knight means that the Wraith King never has to go for a BKB. It saves him that BKB, which you can then use for something picking up like an earlier Assault Cuirass or an earlier Molnir to amplify his damage output, as well as the fact that in terms of a dual lane, while they don't have much laning presence per se, it's the fact that you can't really go on the Wraith King without the Omni Knight turning on you. If you go on the Omni Knight, the Wraith King can stun you and try to turn. Or can he instead opt to pick up Lich, and Lich is a hero very similar to the Omni Knight in the sense that he gives you the flexibility to run dual lanes. Lich in a try-v-try situation actually doesn't offer you too much, and the biggest weakness of the Lich is if you run him that tri-lane, because he does need some level of EXP to be effective. However, the biggest strength that he provides you is the macro advantage of being able to constantly provide gold as well as experience to your team through sacrifice, since you're pulling the creep wave closer towards your tower, so you're providing farm for your offlaner if you do decide to run in that dual lane role, as well as being able to provide you experience to yourself, as well as to any other supports in the nearby region to make sure that you maintain some kind of parity. And so a Lich dual lane against an enemy tri-lane, if you're able to trade a kill, you actually come out on top of that, since not only are you getting the sacrifice EXP, with the way that the EXP and gold bounty mechanics work, with 2 heroes compared to 3, you're always going to be coming out ahead of that. And even if you don't trade, if they never do commit for a kill, just the fact that it's 2v3 means that you're going to get a lot more experience in your heroes, and Lich is going to get his Chain Frost early online a lot faster than the Skywrath Mage is going to get his Mystic Flare. So Mate, opting to pick up the Silencer, and this is a hero that hard counters the Faceless Void, because of the ability to completely prevent him from being able to use his ultimate. In Faceless Void, he's got the 0.54 cast point when he winds up to throw out the Chronosphere. Assuming the Silencer is quick with his fingers and quick with his reactions, the instant he sees the Faceless Void zip in, if he presses R, the Faceless Void's now stuck behind enemy lines with no way to really get out. He can't initiate, he's completely caught out of position, and Void, if you run him that offlane position, which he most frequently is run as, he's entirely dependent on that ultimate to be effective. This is the fundamental weakness of Void as an offlane hero. It used to be much more prevalent back when teams would draft heroes like the Skywrath Mage to ensure that every single time you chrono you could find a kill. But now with the significant nerfs to the Chronosphere, so the increase in cooldown, which is most heavily hitting at the early stages when Void picks up level 1 Chronosphere, as well as the fact that it no longer disables passive abilities. So if Mate decide to pick up a hero with an evasion, much more difficult for the Faceless Void to be able to take him down. Void now becomes a much riskier pickup, just because the Death Ball style, all-in pushing style fight then take a tower lineups of 8-1 no longer are as prevalent or as relevant in 8-2, especially with the way they've changed tower bounty. So every single time you take a tower, not only are you getting less gold, but you also refresh the fortification cooldown on tier 1 towers. So it means that they could actually effectively split push, trade every tower for a tower, and then it buys them enough time to be able to go back to defend their tier 2s, as well as the fact that the tier 2 towers have increased in armor. So it does heavily nerf the style of lineup that FortyeniN are drafting, especially with that Shadow Shaman pickup. And Mate immediately going in for the Phantom Assassin. And Meow, formerly known as Mule, or currently going as Mulevery, who's calling himself Meow, he's actually the 25th highest ranked PA player on Dota buff, so he's exceptionally talented on that hero. And Mate, they exclusively run Phantom Assassin in that mid lane. This is something they're famous for doing. They have the Omni Knight combo in the dual lane, so we could be seeing something like an Omni Knight with a Silencer thrown against their tri-lane, Phantom Assassin in the mid lane, the Skywrath Mage with another much more durable core. So we could be seeing, with the Wraith King as well as the Brewmaster ban, we could be seeing something along the lines of maybe a bristleback, or even something like a carrier bandit, something that Ye may also really do like to run. They love running a durable core alongside the PA, so that way it forces you into a do or die situation. If you prioritize the PA, then the bandit's going to run all over you. If you don't prioritize the PA, then she's going to stomp all over your supports, or going to quickly evaporate them, especially once the level 2 coup de grace comes online. Phantom Assassin as a mid lane hero, the only reason why it works is because she is so heavily dependent on getting level 2 coup de grace before the enemy supports are able to pick up things like Force Staff or Ghost Scepters. Level 1 coup de grace actually isn't that effective of a nuke, it's only a 250% increase in damage. So while it does seem great on paper, it's the fact that it's a 15% chance of proccing. To give you a bit of a comparison, Juggernaut's Blade Dance has a 36% chance of proccing at level 4, and as a 2x increase in damage is actually a much more effective crit than the level 1 coup de grace, but once the level 2 coup de grace comes online, that's when it starts to deal a lot more damage, as well as with the recent change in 8.1, so Stifling Dagger can also proc the coup de grace crit. PA is actually incredibly effective as a mid lane hero, just because she's able to trade hits through Blur. With the Blink Strike, she can actually get a lot more hits on you early on. And if she happens to get one crit along the way, she can instantly turn that into a kill. So PA, very elusive, very difficult hero to deal with in that mid lane. And yeah, mate, taking no chances, banning up the Timbersaw. Just because Timbersaw's ability to be able to bully the PA out of the lane, in this case, you could actually even contemplate throwing Timbersaw into the mid lane. Although Death Prophet does okay against the PA in the early stages, it's just that the Death Prophet has to completely shut down PA's experience in the early stages and deny her as much gold as possible and try to take the tower as quickly as possible. Otherwise, if PA is able to pick up level 6 and the tower hasn't fallen, she can instantly turn and try and pick off the DP. And this is a huge swing in momentum towards the PA, since if she's not able to find farm in terms of the last hitting, because the Death Prophet's constantly bullying her with the Crypt Swarm, she needs to be able to find that kill. That's the pivotal moment where she starts to run away and starts to snowball out of control. FortyeniN dipping into the last of the reserve time. They've still got their last core position hero pickup, and so far they've drafted the Faces of Void as their offlaner. From the look of it, with the Death Prophet in the mid lane, the Lich Shadow Shaman as the two supports, they could potentially run Lich with the Void to ensure that Faces of Void has a much stronger time. They opt to pick up a Legion Commander, so this is a hero that was recently added to Captain's Mode, and in terms of functionality, Legion Commander performs very similar to the same way that Lifestealer used to function, which is an incredibly aggressive early game carry that gets up in their face, keeps hitting them, and brings them down through the sheer amount of burst damage you can provide in the early stages, thanks to the overwhelming odds, as well as the occasional moment of courage proc. Legion Commander is an incredibly powerful hero in that core position role, if she gets a good start, since the caveat to Legion Commander is dual can be a double-edged sword, and yeah, mate, they opt to pick up the Ogre Magi, currently my favorite hero as far as 8-2 is concerned, and that's because of the fact that they've actually reworked the way multicast procs, so it's 40% at level 1 for a 2x multicast, and because it's pseudo-random, you can consider it to be now a reliable form of lockdown for all intents and purposes. So we're going to be seeing what looks like an Ogre Magi offlane, potentially with the Silencer or with the Omni Knight. Just because, yeah, mate, they do like to mix up their lanes a bit. They tend to run the Omni Knight in the aggro lane, so it will be interesting to see how they decide to lane this. Whereas FortyeniN, of course, the drawback to this is the fact that the Ogre Magi is a melee hero. While he is incredibly durable with the 7 armor as well as the 2.5 regen per second, he can't go 1v3. Even with the help of the Omni Knight, he's going to have to play fairly passive, at least in the early stages, and he's going to be eating a fair amount of damage from the Frost Blast. So I'm going to introduce the players from both teams. Over on the boys from mate, we've got their captain, the real bro. They're going to be playing the Omni Knight. Immediately picking up a TP, so he likes to play a very active Omni Knight, especially with the rotation, since the early TP rotation into a gank with the purification can quickly turn the tide. UGTFO going to be what looks like the offlane Ogre Magi as he went for boots first, starting with tangos. Cox going to be over the 5 as the Skyrise Mage. Ward's already picked up on him. Meow. 2 position Phantom Assassin, they're already being pulled 1 tango. There we go, there's 2 tangos being pulled up. We've got a smoke rotation, but unfortunately King Killer, who's going to be the silencer, wasn't caught in it. So I am experiencing a little bit of lag, bear with me just 1 second. And the boys from FortyeniN, leading the charge is Kui, going to be over on the 5 position Shadow Shaman. Tiny Tiger, going to be the Faces Void as their 1 position farmer. It looks like they're actually running Void in that 1 position role. In the mid lane, Zhao going to be the Death Prophet. Lance is hanging around in the mid lane for now, trying to take his creep away with utilizing the sacrifice. And Legion Commander, led by the Captain Highfish, actually going to be an offlane Legion Commander, starting with no stat items, just regen. So it will be interesting to see how effective this Legion Commander is in that offlane position. I'm experiencing a little bit of lag, I do apologize. Orcon can be a bit unstable around this time of night. So smoke rotation was unsuccessful. They do place a fairly aggressive ward He has spot at the mid lane, so this is to ensure that any rotations coming to the mid lane, especially from the off lane, are much more fruitful. Bounty rune going to be picked up by the Real Brother, so UGTFO ensuring there's support's able to pick it up. And looks like we are going to be seeing what looks like an Ogre Magi as well as a Omni Knight over in the off lane, so it does provide them a very durable dual lane, where the objective for them isn't necessarily to go for kills, but simply to stay alive and outlast them. Looks like UGTFO actually is rotating over to the bot lane, and so we could be seeing what looks like a tri-lane forming from Name, as Omni Knight so far left to solo, and Meow with that poor man shield. Going to be difficult for Zhao to be able to bully him out just entirely based off right clicks. Is utilizing that Crypt Swarm though. Another reason why the PA is much more effective as a mid lane hero in 8-2 compared to 8-1 is the fact that you're now guaranteed a rune spawn. And PA is a hero that really does utilize the bottle fairly effectively, just because she's always going to be spamming out the Stifling Dagger, and traditionally if PA is going to be run in that off lane, or rather in the side lane, you want to pick up something like a Ring of Basilius, just because she has absolutely intelligence growth. And while her spells don't really cost too much mana, she does chew through it fairly quickly. So Meow actually off to a bit of a difficult start, but it looks like Broda, he's being engaged on. Kui's called him out the shackles. Tiny Tiger actually time walks into melee range, and Broda immediately just TPs himself home. And so the teleportation scroll already paying for itself. Tiny Tiger, unfortunately, with that point in the time walk, no point in the time lock available. It's a good recognition coming out from the Real Broda to keep himself alive. And UGTFO actually looks like it is going to be a tri-lane coming out from the boys of Name, going for the pull through. He's got a tango, so he should be able to eat through that tree line. And Ogre Magi actually skilling Fire Blast at 1. Have to actually disagree with the skill, but Ignite is much more effective at that first point, unless if you have a slippery hero like a Queen of Pain that or a Puck that you want to gank, that's going to be able to immediately disengage. Otherwise, the Fire Blast is only 1.5 seconds. If you had the Ignite, you could have used that to provide the snare, but of course, that being said, Highfish does have the press the attack to be able to purge off any CC. So all in all, while they were able to go for the kill, they were actually able to force it to burn herself. They're dealing a fair amount of attrition damage, and King Killer opting for a point in Last Word as well as Curse of Silence, so going for a very aggressive build. If he was playing a lot more passively, you'd opt for an earlier point in Glaives, so you could orb walk them out. Of course, the drawback of that is it doesn't give you that burst damage combo with the Curse as well as the Last Word. And good rotation coming from Cox, ensuring that you can secure runes. And that's the best way to control the Death Prophet, is prevent her from gaining rune control. Much more difficult now with 8-2. It's the reason why dual lanes have become a lot more prevalent. It's the fact that they let you contest runes a lot more effectively. Bro, they've been quite handily zoned out, still level 1, hasn't picked up level 2 yet, compared to the Legion Commander who's level 3, so in 8-1 this never would have happened. The Dire offlane used to be significantly weaker than the Radiant offlane, just because of the way creep equilibrium meant, as well as the fact that you don't have any camp off the side like you do for the Radiant offlane that you could potentially pull creeps to disrupt the equilibrium. Now with the way that they've rebalanced the Dire offlane as well as the Radiant offlane, introducing these gank pathways, as well as slightly delaying the creep equilibrium, much easier and much more balanced for both sides, since the Dire side no longer has the advantage of Roshan. So the Real Brother actually having a very difficult time so far in the offlane. He's constantly eating Frost Blast coming up from Lance, and this is the advantage of the Lich. It is similar to a Jakiro if you're not running with that core position role. They're great at being able to provide harassment damage to their offlaner, to be able to continually apply pressure. And Brodo, while he's having a difficult time, he's not going to be taking a death anytime soon. He's going to repel as well as a TP scroll. So if they ever try to gank him, so long as he's got mana to do both, he can repel himself and then TP on Ether. Since the repel blocks magic damage as well, it actually significantly hinders the effectiveness of the Face's Void in terms of kills, because Time Lock is magic damage, and Void's heavily dependent on that Time Lock. But if we have a look at our last hits, Meow, doing pretty bad compared to Zhao, but considering it's a Death Prophet against the PA, not too bad as far as the CS is concerned. He's more there to be able to buy the time for experience. The deny is going to be a lot more important than the last hits. And so far, Zhao, half a level ahead. And that could be a much more important factor. I was mentioning the importance of being able to deny PA as much experience as possible, to try to hit level 6 before she does, because if she's able to pick up 6 and you haven't taken the tower, or have dealt a significant amount of chip damage, it's going to be very difficult to go for the kill. While I say that, Highfish caught up with the Ignite as well as the Fire Blast, uses Press the Attack to provide the HP regen. Cox throws out 1 Arcane Bolt, not going to be enough, and needs the secondary follow-up. And UGTFO, he wanted that kill, but he's not going to be able to find it. And with that, they drive Highfish completely out of lane, so similar to Broder, he's also experiencing a bit of a difficult time. Invisor now being pinged out. And UGTFO picks it up with the Clarity being able to boost him back up to about half mana, so he'll have enough to be able to use his combo. And Meow, this is the benefit of the PA as that mid laner. She has an amazing amount of offensive capability if the supports rotate in. But Zhao, as Haste Rune's about to wear off, he's actually in a bit of a tricky situation, especially with UGTFO waiting in the wings. They throw out Stifling Dagger, Fire Blast immediately follows. Ignite's also going to be following. Zhao should be taking a death. There's no way he's going to be making another. And Cox gets the first hit. And the last hit, Sarin picks up First Blood, so that's Boots going to be picked up on him. But while I say that, Real Broder fortunately takes a fall. Looks like Kui was able to pick up the last hit on that. So both the supports for Ace as well as Name picking up the last hits on the hero. ensures that they're able to find early boots. And early boots on the Shadow Shaman is much more important than the early boots in the Skywrath Mage. Just because Skywrath Mage has the 1600 range concussive shot, as well as the 325 movement speed to be able to close the distance. Shadow Shaman has absolutely nothing. So it's the weakness of the Shadow Shaman dual lane, is they have fairly ineffective roaming capability. Just because you've got lockdown coming in from the Shadow Shaman, but you've got no real way to be able to close the distance, unless you catch them completely by surprise. That being said, Lich does have 315 movement speed, so he could try to initiate with the Frost Blast. But Meow should be able to instantly disengage using that Blink Strike. So Meow picked up the coup de grace now, and Zhao, he's got to be a lot more careful, especially since he's given that kill over the Meow. He's now got the EXP lead, and once he picks up level 7, he can look to play a lot more aggressively. And so with the fact that Stifling Dagger now can proc coup de grace, it actually has a separate counter for the coup de grace crit than your regular attack. So one of the ways you could prime yourself with the coup de grace crit is throw 1 or 2 right clicks over in the crit. But while they say that, Zhao going in, already eating that concussive shot as well as the Stifling Dagger. They're choosing to commit to this with a secondary Stifling Dagger follow-up, and the great Ancient Seal from Cox actually ensures that kill, preventing him from being able to turn around and follow that Crypt Swarm. Crypt Swarm might have actually been enough with a few tower right clicks. If he hadn't actually blurred that one, he'd go for the kill. And Real Broder throws up the Purification, bodyguards him out there so he could bottle up that haste rune, and with that he could look to play a lot more aggressively. If we have a look at the fight recap, the EXP change is going to be a lot more important for Yana to line up early on. Just because the best way to shut down the Legion Commander and the Faceless Void is to be able to find the experience on your supports. They're a lot more tankier since they're heroes that rely on getting pickoffs to be effective. Tiny Tiger looks like he's going for the Hand of Midas build. He's got the Time Walk available, so it should be fairly difficult for them to go for a kill. They actually backtracks the Purification, but immediately the Repel's being used. And Tiny Tiger looks like Global Silence was also committed for that as well, just in the off chance he had the Chronosphere available, and Meow cuts him down. So living up to his ranking on Dota buff, he is the 25th highest ranked PA player in the world, or at least according to Dota buff. UGTFO got to be a bit more careful. Eats a Crypt Swarm for his trouble, and once again we've got a slight inefficiency coming out from the skill build. You usually want to prioritize the second point in Ignite before you go for the second point in Fire Blast, just because Ignite is a lot more efficient in terms of mana for damage as well as for ability point for damage. Fire Blast, the only reason why you want to max it out is because with the damage nerf, you need, if you want any form of damage from your multicast, you want to prioritize the Fire Blast to give you that burst damage. Otherwise, you actually want to prioritize Ignite for overall DPS. But while I say that, Meow almost takes a death, repels there just in case Akui had enough mana for the Aethershock, but didn't have, and it was just coming off cooldown anyway. Meow picks up his face boots, throws down a cheeky Stifling Dagger, and backs himself off back to home. Zhao still not going for the point in the Exorcism, so the traditional build for the Death Prophet now is to actually prioritize maxing out your Witchcraft before you go for a point in the Exorcism, just because the level 1 Exorcism is fairly inefficient, and usually TFO is able to survive. The beefiness of that 7 armor at level 1, as well as the 2.5 HP regen, means the Ogre Magi, you can't really bully him at a lane so long as he's got at least one set of tangos with him. UGTFO, his sole job right now is to try to pick up level 6, so he can provide a lot more lockdown with Ace. Eats a Stifling Dagger crit, actually immediately Frost Armors himself, and Meow, no coup de grace crit coming up from him so far. UGTFO though follows up with a Fire Blast, and that ensures a kill. So Meow's able to find it. Because UGTFO is playing as a pseudo-core Ogre Magi, he's going to be playing as a 4 roll as opposed to the 5. You don't want to go for the early point in the Bloodlust, otherwise the 1-1-1 build's a lot more effective. Just because it gives you that movement speed to be able to dish out the right-click damage. Since Ogre Magi with an Orb of Venom actually is fairly potent in terms of right-click DPS, Meow bottles up the Illusion Rune, gives him the sustain to be able to continue to engage or re-engage. But if we have a look at experience for the offlaners, Broder, level 4 compared to Highfish is level 6, so the Legion Commander doing a huge amount of work. And Legion Commander with the Soul Ring is able to continually find farm and actually pressure King Killer out of lane. And its overwhelming ult to be called in with a creep wave does do a hell of a lot of damage. And Highfish spots him out now, backs himself away. So he's going to be looking to go for a Blink Dagger as soon as possible, most likely going to be going Treads in that case. Otherwise, Legion Commander could also go for the phase into Drums. And once the Treads is picked up, and the Blink Dagger, probably going to be going for something like a Blade Mail, since you could activate it before you duel to amplify your damage further. Zhao eats Concussive Shot, the Fire Blast, as well as Meow blinking on top of the Stifling Dagger. Global Silence is committed, and Lance, he just backs himself away. With the Ancient Seal as well as the Global Silence, absolutely nothing he could do. UGTFO is able to find that kill, getting closer and closer towards that multicast, so the pure skill will be coming online fairly soon. If we have a look at the fight recap, once again, it's the experience going towards the supports that's going to be the critical factor. If Legion Commander isn't able to kill them within the duration of the duel, so she doesn't get the duel damage, even if she does kill them afterwards, not getting that duel damage is going to be quite significant. Because Legion Commander is a hero, you can't really play from behind, you have to play her when you're even or ahead, similar in essence to the lifesteal in that core position role. So in this case, because she's going to be run as a 3 as opposed to a 1, her job's there more to lock down priority targets, But I believe Duel actually has been nerfed in 8.2, so it no longer actually disables passive abilities for the enemy hero like it used to. So that means PA's Blur as well as a Coup de Grace still are active. So in 8.1 it used to act as a pseudo Doom in the sense that both heroes were muted so their abilities wouldn't work. Apart from her moment of courage, but now it's been balanced out a bit more. So it really does impact her ability. In this case, she's going playing as a combination of the Lifestealer as well as the Bat Rider. She's there trying to lock them down, using Duel as a getter playing Lasso. Immediately presses the attack as the concussive shot flew out from Cox, and Cox is actually prioritizing Ancient Seal. So the rationale behind this is because you've got the magic damage coming out from UGTFO. Since you've got the Ogre Magi who provides an obscene amount of damage, especially if he happens to get a multicast, and just with Ignite alone, you get more DPS in this case by prioritizing the Ancient Seal than you do from prioritizing the Arcane Bolt, as well as the fact that you're also dealing with the heroes like a Faceless Void. They're very slippery if they're able to use their abilities. So if you could catch out Tiny Tiger, prevent him from being able to either Time Walk or throw out the Chronosphere, he's dead in the water. And Kui, Arcane Boots are picked up. So the 5-foot, well, I guess in this case, the 4-position Shadow Shaman already picked up the Arcane Boots, so all he needs now is the Blink Dagger to really be effective, and this is the fundamental weakness of the Shadow Shaman, is you need to pick up Arcane Boots before you're really effective in these engagements, because otherwise you just barely have enough mana to throw out your Serpent Wards and to throw out the Shackle, with maybe one Ether Shock, but because Ether Shock does such an obscene amount of damage in the early stages of the game, and has such a low cooldown, you ideally want to be able to throw out 2. And so until you pick up Arcane Boots, you're heavily limited in terms of your teamfight engagement, just because your abilities chew through so much mana, and you just don't have enough of it to really get around. Now, it looks like he's picked up the Casual Braces to find a bit more survivability. Could be opting to go for something like Drums of Endurance to further increase his chase potential. Or he could opt to pick up something a lot more aggressive, such as a Cranium Basher, or something like a Desolator. Lance going in for a bit of D-Ward, he immediately backs himself off because Meow's there. Stifling Dagger flies as well as a Concussive Shot. That's one dead Lich. Arcane Bolt, Meow cuts him down, and Highfish thought about throwing out the overwhelming odds, decides not to do so. Zhao looks like he was actually able to D-Ward, so at least they're able to get a D-Ward from him, but Zhao, he's actually got to be a little bit careful now. Meow, 3 points up in the blow. He can manfront against Zhao as long as he wants, especially since Zhao doesn't have that Exorcism available. Exorcism and Ghost do actually completely ignore the evasion. It's one of the ways to control the PA. UGTFO leads a charge in Highfish, leads with the Fire Blast, gonna follow up with the Ignite fairly soon. Multicast procs, of course, it's gonna be on the Ignite, so just hits the Creep Wave instead. They don't have enough damage to go for a kill attempt on Highfish, but they should be zoning him out. But UGTFO is committing, he actually gets a multicast, and with that multicast and the Global Silence, it's gonna get it. So pure skill coming up for UGTFO. Meow now goes over Tiny Tiger. Tiny Tiger catches him the Chronosphere, eats a Purification for his trouble, and he's now calling the Ancient Seal. Meow, if he can throw out Stifling Dagger, it's gonna be enough for a kill, but while I say that, Chain Frost flies. Broder unfortunately takes another death, so he's taking both deaths for his team. Coxie also gotta be very careful. Silencer looks like he's able to clean up Kui. Time War coming in from Tiny Tiger, but he's too low to really engage. That Mask of Mana's Purification really did a number on him. UGTFO actually TPs out and ranges Zhao, but Zhao just able to right click him out in time. It's a bit unfortunate that they were able to get that, and that trade actually favors Ace quite heavily, even though they did get a lot more golden experience from that. It's the fact that Ace is so far behind that any trade really is going to be a good trade. They did force out the global, even if it did cost them the Chronosphere. They still have the Exorcism available, and because Broder doesn't have the Guardian Angel, that's going to be the critical factor. They could actually choose to barrel down the bot lane and take a tower with the Exorcism. But while I say that, we do have a disconnect from Cox. He's reconnecting in. And so far, Meow holding onto his gold. PA with an early, so say 20 to 22 minute Desolator can single-handedly win you games, just because it lets you instantly pick off any of the backline heroes, even without the Coup de Grace kit. The Coup de Grace just becomes gravy at that point. So Meow looks like he's going to be going for a much safer build, so Phase Drum gives you a lot more sustainability as well as a lot more chasing potential. You do actually see PAs usually go for treads now, especially with the fact that Blow has been buffed to 50%, so you want to prioritize Blow as opposed to prioritizing the Phantom Strike. So in that case, you want the attack speed from the treads to be a lot more effective, because you're not going to have as much chasing capability with only 1 point in the Phantom Strike. But of course, the advantage of phased drums over the PA is the drums makes up for the deficit in attack speed that you usually would find from treads, and you've always got the Stifling Dagger to rely upon, so even if you're not hitting that fast, the fact that you're constantly hitting them with the sheer amount of movement speed and maneuverability you have is going to be a lot more important. Broder now rotating over to the offlane once again. He's picked up level 6, so he's now got his Guardian Angel, but he's incredibly poor. If we have a look at his net worth, he's actually poorer than the support, so UGTFO and Cox doing a lot better than Broder is, so they might have actually been a bit of a misplay running a trail lane as opposed to a dual lane, but they really did need to bodyguard King Killer, just because Silencer, his biggest weakness, is a very fragile hero that needs a fair amount of investment before he starts to come online. And Silencer looks like he's going for an early Yule Scepter. The Yule Scepter's essentially replaced 4-star of a lot of these core position heroes, and Kui turns around to go for the Shackle. It instantly pops the Meow. No rotations even coming out. They knew he was dead in the water. And Meow 4-0 for 4. A lot of gold stacked up on him. If they ever are able to kill the PA, the spree gold from that could actually be a significant factor going in favor of Ace. But so far, if we have a look at Golden Experience, about 1,500 gold lead. So not too big this early on. The experience is actually fairly even. It's just due to the fact that Highfish, he's doing so much better than Broder in terms of his efficiency. He's picked up level 9. Broder's just barely picked up 6. So he's... Of course, the drawback to this is Highfish is much greedier of a core than the Omni Knight. Omni Knight, at most, all he really wants now is maybe something like a Blink Dagger to guarantee he could get a good purification off. Or even if he opts not to go for something like a Blink Dagger, if he eventually starts to go for an Agnum Scepter, he will be able to find it by the end of the game, especially the way that game time have been increased. Highfish immediately TPs on out, Purification flies out, it's not going to be enough, so great recognition coming up from him. He immediately popped the press the attack on the off chance that no support was coming, because in that case he could have actually dual Broder and killed him. But because Meow was instantly coming in, he knew that the two of them had no form of CC. Tiny Tiger catches out Cox, Global Silence flies a bit too late, eats the last word as well as the Frost the Fire Blast and the Ignite. Chain Frost flies, Mystic Flare does clean up Tiny Tiger, so if Cox dies from this, it's not going to be too unsatisfied. UGTFO, face tanking like a champ, Exorcism flies, and he unfortunately is going to be taking a death as Zhao's turns around and stands his ground. Kin, thinking of maybe going in for a backstab, he could actually pick off Kui with the Curse of Silence as well as the last word combination, which is actually coming off online for him very shortly. Zhao lets a very expensive Exorcism and a Mass Serpent Ward. They throw everything they have to take this Tail 1 tower, open the safe lane, and while it does give them a small increase in gold in terms of tempo, it sets them back significantly because now there's a 2-minute window of opportunity for Yaname to either farm passively and know there's nothing that Ace can do, or to be the group of his farms start barreling down towers, especially now that King Killer's picked up his own Yule Scepter. So the Yule Scepter has dual purpose as far as the silence is concerned in this game. On the off chance he happens to get caught out by Tiny Tiger leaping in, he can Yule Cycle himself up to buy himself 2.5 seconds to give Broder enough time to get in position for the Purification, or even for the Guardian Angel if need be. You can also use it if Death Prophet catches him with the Great Chill. And Silencer, that silence isn't actually going to be too useful. He has to get that global silence off in these engagements, and while he was a little bit slow to respond, at least he prevented the Chain Frost from immediately flying out from Lunt, so he prevented that combination from being able to devastate his teammates. UGTFO picking up Arcane Boots, throws out the casual Ignite. So this is the strength of the Ogre Magi, that off-lane roll. You can just casually throw out the Ignite every time it's off cooldown if you pick up from Soul Ring. And so 1v3, while Ogre's not going to be getting any CS, you just passively whittle them down until they're low enough for you to attempt to go for a kill. The UGTFO is opted to go for an early point in the Bloodlust, because the second point in the Ignite is going to be the important factor. So much like the 4-2-1 build of the Razor, the second point in the Static Link is going to be the critical amount you need to be effective in the early to mid stage of the game. The second point in the Ignite is going to be where you really start to get the most amount of gains for your ability point investment. And that early point in Bloodlust, especially with the PA in the field, it's going to provide you a lot more killing power. Kui instantly explodes the Meow. Zhao, there's absolutely nothing he could do. He just backed himself out. He's got the Yule Scepter as well. Highfish TPs himself out. There's no way he's chancing a fight with the Phantom Assassin, especially one that's this stacked. He is going for the Cranium Basher, and so the advantage of this build is it gives you a little bit of everything you need. You've got the stats and the mobility, so you can't ever get away from the PA, and now you've got the Basher. So the one thing Yaname's lineup really lacked was effective lockdown. It's essentially all coming out from UGTFO. Instantly goes at Lance. Tiny Tiger, he's getting a little bit ignored. Yule Cyclone actually saves our Lance for now. Global Silence was committed for that, so Tiny Tiger couldn't retaliate. As was the Guardian Angel, bit of a misclick coming out from Real Broder. Exorcism's also committed, so both teams throwing everything they have to little effect so far. Last word's been used over in Kui, so he's going to eat that damage like a champ. And with that done, both teams can just going to back off and try to reset, especially because since the Chronosphere is still available. And Tiny Tiger leaps and catches out two, catches out Broder, immediately tries to prioritize him, never mind, turns around, goes over and Cox instead. Mass Serpent Ward's used over in Broder, Meow comes in, instantly pops Kui, Lance throws out the Chain Frost, Meow actually backs into the rest of his team and now goes back and forth. Broder hits him again, one more Crystal would be enough to go for the kill. Zhao goes in for it, but the repels immediately there, and the Stifling Dagger. King Killer, bit off point with that Global Silence. The rest of his team weren't really able to capitalize, especially with the Guardian Angel down. So they traded 1 for 1. But that's a trade that's ultimately going to favor Ace a lot more just because they are so far behind. It did buy Highfish all the time in the world to be the farm up. UGTFO also wasn't there. Looks like he almost took a death. But so far, no dual damage in the Legion Commander. And Highfish actually opting to skip the Blink Dagger and goes right for the Blade Mail. This is a huge mistake. You really need that Blink Dagger especially since in this case you actually haven't gotten any dual damage and you've got no other way to close the distance. While you are very fast with the overwhelming ults, getting that overwhelming ult off in the first place, Tiny Tiger caught him with the last words, whilst the Mystic Flare eats it like a champ, and King Killer cuts him down. So King Killer now doubling back to go for the Aghanim Scepter, so the Aghanim Scepter build coming out from the Silencer. Very conventional build that provides you a lot more damage with the Aghanim Scepter Coastal Silencer applied when you global, then the level 1 and level 2 Thunder God's Wrath coming out from Zeus also provides you a lot more control. You've got that extra second to work with. And you've got the fact that if you throw it down right at this point in the game, you're actually going to drive Kui and Lance completely out of lane, and Meow once again pops Kui, not having a great game. Invis being bottled up as well as the Bastion now available. So Meow at this point, if he's repelled, he could go 1v5 against the entire enemy team. Or I suppose 2v5 since you've got Broder there to buff him up. So this is the power of Mate's lineup. They love running the Omni Knight in conjunction with the Phantom Assassin, because the biggest thing that limits the effectiveness of the PA is this fragility. So if you're able to throw down Repel, so she doesn't have to spend 4,000 gold to go for the BKB, so she's able to come online a lot earlier where she's at her most dangerous. And these split off engagements, you just try to pick off a single hero, pop them so quickly, and the rest of the team doesn't have time to respond. So this is a PA, this is the amount of damage output you usually expect from a PA about 50 minutes of the game once she's picked up a damage item. Because you've got the Repel, she doesn't have to give a damn about having to kill him in that 2 to 3 second window. She can now afford to go into these drawn out engagements, since she can constantly engage and re-engage at will with that Blink Strike. With that Siphon Dagger, you're not going anywhere. Kui eats a Fire Blast as well as an Ignite. Global Sight's actually been committed just in case they decide to go into that. Highfish called out the Global as he TP'd in. And with that Blade Mail, if he is able to get a duel off, he's going to guarantee the kill. As long as you pop the Blade Mail. Although interesting to note, Highfish actually prioritizing Press the Attack over Moment of Courage. Bit of an interesting skill build coming out from the Legion Commander. If you run Legion Commander as a 4, which in Dota 1 she actually used to be run as that 4 position just because of how effective Press the Attack was, then you want to prioritize it. Of course, in this case, it does make a lot more sense just because it gives her more sustain and potentially more damage so long as you press the attack yourself before you duel. But since she's so heavily shut down and she's got no real way to close the distance against these fairly mobile supports coming out from the Mate, especially since you have to keep in mind they've got the Bloodlust, movement speed from UGTFO, and the Drums of Endurance movement speed. And you've also got real Broder with the Repel aura, with the Degen aura that now applies the Sticky, so it's actually going to be very difficult for Highfish to be able to start a fight with a duel. And when you pick a Legion Commander in the offlane, you ideally want her to perform a similar role to the Batrider, so if you catch a single hero out of position, you blink on them, duel forces their team to prioritize Legion Commander while the rest of your team walks in and cleans up. In this case, because she doesn't have any kind of movement speed, even with the overwhelming odd stacks, it's going to give Yana enough time to respond. So while she's running up, you get called out with the Ancient Seal, she can get Fire Blasted by UGTFO, or she might even just be completely ignored even if she does get a duel off. So it gives them more time for them to really respond. Very aggressive wall being placed by Kui, instantly going to be spawning out though. Meow jumps over Angel. He's now called in a bit too far in position. The Repel's being used, Chain Frost blowing him back and forth as well. Exorcism going to deal a fair amount of damage, and while I say that, Guardian Angel not going to be enough. 3-man Chronosphere coming out from Tiny Tiger. Mystic Flare also whips Kui. Going to be incredibly low from that Coastal of Silent. He actually might die from that. Just barely lives. So great play coming out from Tiny Tiger, catching out 3. If he wasn't able to do that, that fight would have been a complete wash for them, as Brody could have thrown out the Guardian Angel, they could have turned a lot earlier. Still no dual damage over on Highfish. They do waste the Exo and the Chronosphere in exchange for a global. So if they decide to sit back, they could continue to farm, since in terms of late game presence, actually is a bit, would have to favor Name just because they've got the Ogre and the Skywrath that scale much more effectively than the Shadow Shaman and the Lich. Lich after a certain point tapers off completely, just because once BKBs come online, or in this case because you've got the Repel, Chain Frost isn't really going to be too much of a factor, and Lich doesn't have any form of hard CC. At most he could snare people and provide the Frost Armor, comparison to UGTFO, who at one point will eventually pick up something like an Aghanim Scepter, so he becomes incredibly dangerous, especially if he's able to pick up the level 3 multicast. Skywrath Mage is always going to be a relevant threat, just because he's more mobile than Lich, so that's going to be the most, that's the reason why Skywrath Mage became so popular and so prevalent. Not so much the buff to the Ancient Seal, more so the fact that he's got 325 movement speed, so he could outrun and outfight the other supports. And so if you compare it to a Shadow Shaman, 285 movement speed to a 325 Skywrath Mage, if he catches out Kui on his own, Kui's dead. Now, sitting there in the front line, he's got the Helmet of Dominate now up, so he's going to be turning that into a Satanic to further buff him up. It's the biggest strength of the PA, is you don't necessarily have to build damage items to be effective as a DPS hero, just because you've got the Coup de Grace crit to rely on. You don't even really need to build attack speed just because you get that instant burst from the Phantom Strike, so ideally, all the PA needs is survivability. If you can get survivability and some kind of way to duel other carries, in this case the Cranium Basher, you're all set to be able to jump on Tiny Tiger and then pop him every fight. Since he's actually got more of it, with the 50% evasion from Blur, Tiny Tiger, until he picks up something like an MKB, which you won't be able to get until much later on in the game, PA is going to be almost impossible for them to bring down. The only reliable way they could kill the PA is if she happens to sit in range of the Exorcism. And even then it's going to be tricky. Mass Serpent Ward's been committed, Fortification been dropped, and they might be able to deny the tower. There we go, Brother is able to deny it, and Meow instantly starts farming out the Mass Serpent Wards, and that once again gives a window over the Zhao. Zhao's actually a bit too far forward, Ancient Seal as well as a concussive shot. Yule Scepters himself and get rid of the Ancient Seal. Global Silence has been committed. Mystic Flare not going to be enough because it now takes 2.4 seconds. Kui cut down. High Fish. Blade Nails, he says, I'm panicking, running for his life. Meow actually completely ignores him. Jump on Lance instead. High Fish has also called out the Silence. Now the Ancient Seal and the Fire Blast. He's going to get stuck inside his own creeps. The creeps have betrayed him. That's the last time you deny me, says that creep wave. They block him in and Meow, beyond godlike, picks up a triple kill. 25 minutes into the game, we have a look at that fight recap. Significant swing in favor of Ace, since while I mentioned that every trade they get favors Ace, they're not getting any trades at all. They're just getting wiped for nothing. And in this case, Tiny Tiger wasn't even there in the fight. If he was there to throw the Chronosphere, then maybe might have been to get at least a pick-off kill on somebody like UGTFO, who looks like he's going to be doubling back to pick up the mech. Aghanim Scepter is now online for Kin. And so even if he's not even in the fight, just throwing out the ultimate is instantly going to take off half of Lich as well as the Shadow Shaman's life. So Kui and Lance, they're going to be forced to disengage the instant the Global Silence flies, because A, they're silenced, and B, they're going to be eating 420 damage. So it means that if UGTFO happens to throw an Ignite on them, it's actually going to be enough to be able to tick down Kui. And so it completely destroys the backlines. The reason why carry heroes like the Spectre are so powerful is the fact that you can simultaneously engage the frontline heroes, so the 3 cores, as well as their 2 backline heroes that support at the same time, and not lose anything from it. Ideally, you want to pick off their backline heroes, since A, they're fast, squishy, and easier, and thus easier to kill, but B, they also tend to be the ones that provide the lockdown utility for the rest of your team. So in picking them off, you force the enemy team to have to withdraw, because they no longer have the crowd control to be the lockdown your core. And Meow, with that Alpha Wolf, critting for 1,000, so he's looking pretty. Looks like he's actually going for what looks like an Eye Ascati with that double ultimate ult pickup. Could have also gone in for an Abyssal Blade. So Meow, once he does pick up that Scotty, actually even at this point, he's almost unkillable, especially with Broder there to constantly buff him with both the Repel as well as the Guardian Angel. And so the name of the game is to kill the Phantom Assassin, just because if you do, you're giving your team about 3,000 gold if all 5 happen to be there. Just from you get 2,000 for the killer, since he's able to end the spree as well as get all the assist gold from that. But it's the fact that since it's calculated on the ratio of net worth, and PA has more net worth than almost the other 2 cores combined, it's a significant amount of gold going in favor of the Dire side. Tiny Tiger looks like he's going for a BKB. He needs it to be able to stay alive in these engagements, because at the moment the strength of Name's lineup is if he chronofares a UGTFO, he's not going to be able to kill him in time. UGTFO is buff enough that he should be able to absorb the majority of the Chronosphere, unless they decide to commit everything else to kill him. However, if you don't catch out UGTFO or Cox, they can actually take out half your life within your own Chronosphere. It's going to force you back with the Mystic Flare, or if he happens to get a 2x or even a 3x multicast with the Fire Blast, it's going to drop Faceless Void very low, especially since he's got the Mask of Madness active. So this is the weakness of the Faceless Void in that one position role. If you pick him up against a beefy lineup, you have to get ahead and try to go for pickoffs early on. It's why experience is so important in a game against the Phantom Assassins. They're core position heroes that rely on being able to instantly kill the backline. If the backline heroes get enough golden experience, they could actually outlast you in your Chronosphere. You then lose the significant portion of your team fighting presence, since the reason why Void functions in the 1 position, or even as a 3 position, the fact that you can immediately start a fight 4v5. If you can't do that against a lineup, Void actually tapers off quite heavily as a carry. 1v1 he's great, but against the PA who's going to evade most of his hits, as well as against a team that has a lot of lockdown, you're going to instantly explode this the moment you run into these fights. PA also suffers from that same issue, but in this case, because she's got the Repel and the Guardian Angel to fall back upon, Meow can YOLO into the entire enemy team and not give a damn. Like a Honey Badger, he just runs at you. High Fish, now picked up a Blink Dagger. Still no dual damage on the Legion Commander, but on the upside, it hasn't given any dual damage away. But that being said, we're 29 minutes into a game, and I haven't seen a single duel coming up from High Fish. So while in terms of economics, in terms of macro advantage, he's doing a lot. He's got a lot more farm, picked up a lot more experience. In terms of teamfight contribution, actually hasn't offered anything. He can throw in overwhelming odds, run at them, but then the rest of the team just ignores him. Yeah, no, man, Meow actually ran past him, blinked over him to get to the lance and kill him, because he knows that there's no point prioritizing Legion Commander. she's got no way to really deal with him. If she duels the Phantom Assassin, she's going to die inside her own duel and give Meow even more damage. There's absolutely nothing they could really do. And another reason why this lineup from Mate works is the fact that Bloodlust now works on magic immune units. It's the reason why Ogre Magi has been pushed into a top tier support hero. Meow is backing himself off now, so this is something that Fnatic used to do when they first moved into Dota 2 coming in from Heroes of New Earth. They picked up someone like a Drown and Omni Knight, and while I say that, Kui instantly dies. So the rationale is you repel him, they run in, chip away the town and back off. Level Sun's been used, Tiny Tiger, BKB being completely wasted, couldn't even kill Cox inside the own Chronosphere with the Basket of Madness and the BKB used. So he's completely ineffective in these engagements. Zhao gonna instantly die to Meow. 4x, 3x multicaster run, high fish, and Brother smacks him down. Still no duels coming out from Legion Commander, and Tiny Tiger, he admits his fate. He just says, make it quick, and Meow cuts him down for a triple kill. Yeah, nah, mate, looking absolutely monstrous this game. We've got about a 10,000 gold lead in their hand, 30 minutes in, as well as a 10,000 EXP lead. The first set of racks going to be taking a falls, UGTFO. Going to bloodlust the rest of his mates to be the start smacking down these towers. And Meow, the Ayaskadi, bit unnecessary. You usually want to go for either a Satanic or an Abyssal Blade. He's making it work just because he's so far ahead at this point, there's no way they could kill him. And GG well played being called, so 30 minutes into the game, yeah, nah, mate, able to take a very successful game number 1 up against Ace. If Ace were to review this game, would have actually made a lot more sense for them to run Void as an offlane hero and to actually run Legion Commander as their 1. Or if they did decide to continue to run Legion Commander as that 3 position like Highfish, he actually did a great job in terms of his laning presence. He did a lot better than Broder, was able to find more farm and more experience. It's the fact that he went for the Blade Mail before he went for the Blink, and so he wasn't actually able to get a single duel off that entire game. And since Legion Commander is a hero that's entirely dependent, at least if you run in that core position, on getting early successful duels, much like a Lifestealer is entirely contingent on you being able to find these early kills for you to get so big so quickly they can't stop you. In this case, Highfish, he had absolutely 0 impact. 0 kills, 3 deaths, and 0 assists. So it really does boil down to the weakness of the Legion Commander in that offlane role. They could have potentially recovered if Tiny Tiger was a lot more active and was able to find these pickoffs. But the drawback of running Void in that 1 position role against an Omni Knight, as well as an Ogre, is it makes it very difficult. The entire lineup of Mate makes it difficult for Void to be able to engage. Unless he gets a perfect Chronosphere, any one of the heroes that he doesn't catch out can mess him up, with the exception of maybe the Phantom Assassin, since Phantom Assassin can't directly engage the Void, but in that case she could simply jump the rest of his team. And so it means that there's too much pressure on Void to go for the perfect Chronosphere. If he's not able to do so, mate, they simply absorb it, they face tank it, and they turn. Especially since Broder and Kin, their sole job is to try to block out the Chronosphere, so either prevent him from getting it off by global silencing him right as he's about to chrono, or doing it right after so the rest of his team can't follow up, or utilizing the Guardian Angel, or even the Repel to mitigate all of Void's damage. The majority of Void's damage for the first at least 20 to 25 minutes is going to be magic damage, just because you want to primarily stack attack speed on Void, and you get all of your killing power from your time lock. And in this case, because they had so much durability with that Repel, Void became a fairly ineffective pickup. So we're going to be taking a quick break, and we'll be right back for game number 2. Stay tuned.